We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense.
Diddy's empire is crumbling, and the shocking court footage from his wild freak-off parties is dragging some of Hollywood's biggest names into the spotlight. Usher, 50 Cent, Lil' Kim, they're all tangled up in this scandal. 1. Jay-Z. You wouldn't expect Jay-Z, one of the most polished and calculated figures in the music industry, to get mixed up in something as wild as Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, but that's exactly what the recent court footage reportedly reveals. For years, Jay-Z has maintained an image that's squeaky clean, even while navigating the rough waters of the hip-hop world. He's the billionaire mogul who came from the Marcy Projects and built an empire, marrying Beyoncé and becoming the ultimate power couple. But this footage could potentially put a dent in that flawless reputation. The footage reportedly shows Jay-Z attending one of Diddy's notorious gatherings, the kind of party that's whispered about in industry circles for its over-the-top, explicit nature. These parties were allegedly filled with illicit items and some seriously questionable activities, and seeing Jay-Z's name pop up in connection with them has definitely raised a few eyebrows. It makes you wonder, how deep was his connection to Diddy's wild side? Jay has always been careful about who he associates with, keeping his brand clean while still managing to keep one foot in the streets. But this footage could open up a whole new can of worms for the rap icon. If he was at these parties, what did he know? Was he just there for a good time, or was he involved in the more scandalous side of things that Diddy's been accused of? Fans are split on this one. Some think Jay-Z might have just made a cameo at the party and left before things got too crazy, while others are wondering if this is just the tip of the iceberg. Could there be more footage out there, showing even more compromising situations? For now, Jay-Z has kept quiet, but as more details emerge, it's going to be harder for him to distance himself from Diddy's crumbling empire. If the footage is as bad as it sounds, this could be the first major stain on Jay-Z's otherwise spotless legacy, and people are dying to know the full story. 2. Kanye West. Kanye West being involved in Diddy's scandalous freak-off parties? I mean, with Kanye, nothing seems off limits, right? He's always been unpredictable, eccentric, and downright controversial. So hearing that his name has come up in connection with Diddy's wild gatherings almost feels expected. But the fact that there's actual footage reportedly showing Kanye attending one of these parties is a whole different story. Kanye has always marched to the beat of his own drum, and while he's had his fair share of public outbursts and wild antics, this is a new level of controversy even for him. The footage allegedly places him right in the middle of one of Diddy's infamous parties, where the lines between fun and scandal get seriously blurred. We're talking about a scene that was reportedly full of illicit items, booze, and things that would make anyone blush. Now, Kanye being Kanye, he's never shied away from controversy. In fact, he thrives on it. But this time, fans are wondering if his involvement in these parties goes beyond just showing up for a good time. Was he a participant in the darker, more disturbing side of these gatherings? Did he know about the alleged abuse and exploitation that some have claimed took place at these events? These are the questions buzzing around right now. And let's be real, Kanye's name being dragged into this scandal is just another chapter in his long list of controversies. But the stakes feel higher this time, especially with all the legal heat on Diddy. Kanye's already dealing with the fallout from years of erratic behavior, and this footage could add another layer to the mess. As with Jay-Z, Kanye hasn't addressed his alleged appearance at the parties yet, but people are watching closely. If more details leak, this could become a major PR nightmare for a man who's already no stranger to drama. 3. Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj's connection to Diddy has always been professional, at least that's what we thought. But with this court footage reportedly showing her at one of his wild freak-off parties, fans are starting to wonder how deep that relationship really goes. Nicki has always been bold and unapologetic, but her public persona has never been associated with the kind of scandal that's now swirling around Diddy's name. The footage reportedly places Nicki at one of these notorious gatherings, and if what people are saying is true, It's raising all kinds of questions about what she might have witnessed or even participated in. These weren't just ordinary parties. Diddy's events were notorious for their over-the-top anything-goes atmosphere, where illicit items were rampant and things got out of hand fast. For Nicki to be seen at one of these parties is shocking to her fans, especially since she's always been seen as fiercely independent and in control of her image. So, what was Nicki doing there? Was she just hanging out, enjoying the scene, or was she caught up in the same wild behavior that's now being scrutinized in court? That's what people are dying to know. Her attendance at these parties could suggest a much closer connection to Diddy's inner circle than anyone ever realized. And with all the legal drama swirling around these events, Nicki's name being attached to it isn't a good look. Fans are torn. Some are defending her, saying she probably just stopped by and had no idea how crazy things got. Others are wondering if more revelations about her involvement could come out. After all, when you're around that kind of environment, it's hard to stay completely untouched by the scandal. Nicki has yet to comment on the allegations, but the fact that her name is even being mentioned in this context is enough to keep people talking for a long time. Usher was only 13 when he moved in with Diddy to learn about the music industry, but in reality, it sounds like he got an up-close look at a world most of us can't even imagine. For years, Usher has been pretty tight-lipped about what exactly went on during that time, though he's dropped a few hints. He once said Diddy introduced him to wild things, but that's always felt like an understatement. Now, with footage reportedly shown in court, it looks like there was a much darker side to Diddy's influence on the young star. The footage apparently shows Usher attending one of Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, events that have become legendary for all the wrong reasons. These weren't your average music industry parties. We're talking about wild, illicit, item-fueled nights where anything went, and the details being revealed now suggest that young Usher was right there in the thick of it. Can you imagine being that young and exposed to such a crazy environment? Over the years, Usher has tried to downplay what he saw, but this footage suggests that he might have been more involved than he ever let on. It's hard to say exactly what he did or didn't do at these parties, but his mere presence raises a lot of questions. Did Diddy really take advantage of Usher's youth and naivety, exposing him to things no teenager should see? It's the kind of thing that could shake up Usher's carefully crafted image, especially since he's now a father and role model himself. 5. 50 Cent. 50 Cent has never been shy about his feud with Diddy, and honestly, he seems to love throwing shade every chance he gets. But the recent revelations about Diddy's freak-off parties have put 50 in a bit of a tricky spot. For years, 50 has mocked Diddy for his wild lifestyle, but now court footage reportedly shows 50 Cent himself attending one of these notorious gatherings. This is a guy who loves to talk tough, but even he hasn't outright denied his presence at these wild parties. Instead, he's done what 50 does best, made jokes and stirred up even more controversy. 50's whole image is built on being hard as nails, so it's kind of shocking to think of him at one of Diddy's parties, where the vibe was apparently more about illicit items than anything else. The footage reportedly shows 50 in the mix, which has left a lot of people wondering just how deep his connection to Diddy's wild side goes. He's been quick to point fingers at Diddy over the years, even teasing a documentary about Diddy's alleged involvement in trafficking and crimes. But with this new footage, it's looking like 50 might have to answer some questions himself. One of the most interesting things about this situation is how 50's playing it. Instead of denying the footage or distancing himself from Diddy, he's been poking fun at the whole thing, posting on social media and keeping his feud with Diddy alive. It's classic 50 Cent. Never back down, just double down. But behind the bravado, you have to wonder if he's nervous about what else might come out. If he's shown in more compromising situations in future footage, this could seriously mess with his tough guy persona. For now, though, 50's keeping his cool, and you can bet he'll keep using this scandal to his advantage, even if it drags him into the muck along with Diddy. 6th. Mase. He's painted himself as the guy who escaped the madness, someone who got out just in time before things got too wild. But now, with court footage reportedly showing Mace attending Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, people are starting to question just how far removed he really was from Diddy's darker side. Mace's relationship with Diddy has always been complicated. In the 90s, they were inseparable, making hit after hit, with Mace becoming one of the biggest rappers under Diddy's Bad Boy label. But then, seemingly out of nowhere, Mace left the industry and distanced himself from Diddy, later hinting that there were things going on behind the scenes that he didn't want to be a part of. He's made several comebacks over the years, but his narrative has always been the same. He got out of Diddy's world before it consumed him. But the footage being discussed now paints a different picture. Mace is reportedly seen at one of Diddy's wild parties, and while it's unclear what exactly he was doing there, just being present has raised a lot of questions. Was Mace more involved in Diddy's world than he's let on? Did he witness some of the disturbing behavior that's now coming to light? And if so, why hasn't he spoken up about it? It's a tricky situation for Mace, who has spent years cultivating an image of someone who left the industry to find peace and redemption. If more footage surfaces showing him at these parties, it could complicate that narrative. For now, Mace hasn't addressed the footage, but it's definitely thrown a wrench into his "I escaped Diddy" story. Fans are waiting to see if he'll respond or if he'll keep quiet, hoping the whole thing blows over before more damaging details emerge. 7. Justin Bieber. Justin's mentor, Usher, was super close to Diddy, and when Bieber was just breaking into the industry, he was introduced to that same world. The fact that Justin's name is now popping up in connection to Diddy's notorious parties isn't all that shocking, but the real controversy comes from the fact that Bieber was reportedly still underage at the time. According to court footage, Bieber was seen attending one of Diddy's infamous freak-off parties, and that has sparked a lot of speculation about what he might have been exposed to during those formative years. Now, we all know that Diddy's parties weren't exactly the type you'd want to find a teenager at. These were wild, anything-goes gatherings filled with illicit items and an overall atmosphere of debauchery. So, the idea of a young Justin Bieber being anywhere near that kind of scene has made people understandably uncomfortable. And while Bieber has remained silent on the matter, the fact that he was in proximity to Diddy during this chaotic time raises serious concerns. It's tough to say what Justin saw or did at these parties, but his close ties to Usher, and by extension, Diddy, put him in a potentially harmful environment. On one hand, you could argue that Bieber was just a kid trying to learn the ropes of the industry, and maybe he didn't even fully understand what was going on. But on the other hand, being exposed to that kind of lifestyle so early could have had a major impact on him, something that might explain some of his more rebellious behavior in later years. Whether Bieber was a passive observer or more involved, his name being connected to these freak-off parties adds another layer of intrigue to this scandal. Fans are wondering if more will come to light, but for now, Bieber has chosen to keep quiet, likely hoping this blows over without more damaging details surfacing. 8. Kim Porter. Kim Porter's life has always been shrouded in a bit of mystery, especially given her long, complicated relationship with Diddy. As the mother of his children, she was a significant part of his life, and yet, much about their relationship remains a puzzle. When she passed away suddenly in 2018, it left a lot of questions unanswered, and those questions have only intensified with the recent revelations about Diddy's freak-off parties. According to court footage, Kim was present at some of these infamous gatherings, which has added fuel to the already swirling rumors about what she may have known. For years, people have speculated that Kim might have had inside knowledge about the darker side of Diddy's life, but she never publicly addressed these rumors. Now, with footage showing her at these parties, it's becoming harder to ignore the possibility that she was aware of what was going on behind closed doors. The fact that she was there suggests she was closer to these events than people previously thought, raising uncomfortable questions about how much she knew. Some fans are even wondering if Kim's untimely death could be linked to Diddy's more secretive and potentially dangerous lifestyle. Was there something she knew that could have put her in harm's way? Of course, this is pure speculation, but it's the kind of speculation that becomes hard to ignore when new details keep emerging. On one hand, it's entirely possible that Kim was simply attending these parties as a part of her relationship with Diddy and had no involvement in the more sinister aspects of them. On the other hand, her presence at these gatherings suggests she may have been more aware than anyone realized. While we may never know the full truth, Kim Porter's connection to these parties adds a new layer of complexity to Diddy's scandal. Her legacy is now intertwined with this growing controversy, and it's left fans wondering if there's more to her story than meets the eye. 9. Aubrey O'Day. As a member of Danity Kane, she's been vocal about the exploitation and control she experienced, but recent revelations from court footage have brought her involvement in Diddy's infamous parties into sharper focus. According to reports, Aubrey was seen at several of these wild, freak-off parties where illicit items and chaos were the norm. For someone who has always positioned herself as a victim of the industry, the footage suggests she might have been more embedded in Diddy's world than she's let on. Aubrey has always claimed she wasn't willing to do what was expected of her to climb the ladder in the music industry, implying that Diddy's demands went far beyond music. But seeing her in the footage at these parties has raised some eyebrows. Did she know more about what was going on at these events? Was she truly as resistant to the darker side of Diddy's empire as she's suggested, or was she a willing participant at times? There's no denying that Diddy's parties were places where boundaries were blurred, and Aubrey's presence there raises questions about how much of that world she was a part of. On one hand, it's possible she attended the parties as part of her involvement with Diddy's label and didn't partake in the craziness. But on the other hand, her proximity to these events makes it hard to believe she didn't see or experience things that went far beyond what she shared publicly. Aubrey has made a career out of being outspoken and unfiltered, but with this new footage coming to light, she might have to do some explaining. Was she as removed from Diddy's dark side as she claims, or was she more involved in the chaos than anyone ever realized? Fans are waiting to see if Aubrey will address the footage, but for now, it's added a new layer of complexity to her already controversial time under Diddy's wing. 10. Mark Curry. Curry's claims about Diddy's notorious parties were often dismissed as overblown or coming from a disgruntled former artist, but recent court footage reportedly backs up his most shocking allegations. According to Curry, Diddy's parties were more than just wild nights of fun. They were dangerous, and guests often didn't realize what they were getting into. One of Curry's most disturbing claims was that Diddy spiked drinks at these parties, illicit iteming guests without their knowledge. Now, with footage reportedly showing instances of people being illicit itemed at Diddy's infamous freak-off gatherings, Curry's warnings are being taken more seriously. The footage allegedly reveals guests in altered states, suggesting that Curry wasn't exaggerating when he talked about Diddy's dark side. This adds a whole new level of credibility to the long-standing rumors about what really went down at these events. Curry's involvement in these revelations has fans and critics alike rethinking his past statements. He's been vocal about Diddy's manipulation of artists and the toxic culture at Bad Boy Records, but these new details shed light on just how twisted things might have been. For a long time, Curry was seen as just another artist who had fallen out with Diddy. But with this footage surfacing, it's clear that he may have been trying to warn people all along. While Diddy's camp has continued to deny these claims, the footage is hard to ignore. It shows a much darker and more sinister side to the parties that were once glamorized in hip-hop culture. Curry's decision to speak out might have cost him professionally, but now it looks like he's the one with the last laugh, as the truth about Diddy's wild lifestyle starts to come to light. 11. Rodney Lil Rod Jones. Rodney Lil Rod Jones made headlines with his shocking $30 million lawsuit against Diddy, and the details were enough to make anyone's jaw drop. Jones claimed that Diddy had harassed and groomed him, but what made the case even more unsettling were the allegations that actor Cuba Gooding Jr. was involved as well. According to the suit, Jones was allegedly left alone with Gooding on Diddy's yacht, where things took a disturbing turn. But now, court footage reportedly shows Lil Rod at one of Diddy's yacht parties, backing up his claims and making this case even more damning. The footage allegedly captures Jones at one of Diddy's exclusive yacht parties, where he was supposedly left in a vulnerable position, surrounded by powerful men in the industry. These were not just any parties. They were over-the-top, anything-goes gatherings where illicit item use and inappropriate behavior were common. According to the lawsuit, Jones was subjected to illicit iteming, ritual humiliation, and other advances, and the footage shown in court seems to support his narrative. What's even more troubling is that Jones believes he was being groomed by Diddy for eventual exploitation, which is something no one wants to imagine, but is now being taken more seriously given the visual evidence. Diddy's team has, of course, denied these claims, calling Jones a liar looking for a payday, but the footage shown in court has added a new layer of credibility to his story. Seeing Jones at the party, looking out of place and uncomfortable, has sparked more discussions about what was really going on behind the scenes at these gatherings. Lil Rod's lawsuit has rocked the industry, and with this footage now out there, it's clear that this story is far from over. Whether Diddy can continue to deny the allegations or whether this turns into a massive legal battle remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, this case is not going away anytime soon. 12. Meek Mill. Meek's name has been floating around in the rumor mill, but now footage reportedly shows him in some seriously compromising positions at one of Diddy's freak-off parties. For a rapper who's been outspoken about social justice and personal redemption, this footage puts a whole new spotlight on Meek's relationship with Diddy. According to the footage, Meek wasn't just a passive guest at these parties. He was actively participating in the wild behavior that's now at the center of Diddy's scandal. We're talking about inappropriate behavior, excessive partying, and some very questionable decisions that have left fans and critics alike wondering how deep his involvement with Diddy's dark side really goes. This is a far cry from the image Meek has been cultivating over the years, especially with his advocacy work and efforts to turn his life around after his legal battles. The footage reportedly shows Meek engaging in behavior that could tarnish his hard-earned reputation, and it's already causing a stir in the industry. How does someone who's become a symbol of personal growth reconcile being seen at one of the most controversial events in hip-hop? It's a question that Meek will have to answer, and soon, especially as more details about these parties continue to emerge. So far, Meek has stayed quiet about the footage, but the revelations are raising questions about whether he'll be able to continue positioning himself as a positive force in the industry. Fans are torn between loyalty to the rapper they've supported for years and disappointment in seeing him tied to such a dark chapter of Diddy's life. It's a complicated situation, and how Meek handles it will determine whether his reputation can survive this new scandal. 13. Rick Ross. Rick Ross is no stranger to controversy, but his connection to Diddy's scandalous freak-off parties has added a new twist to his already complicated relationship with the hip-hop mogul. For years, there have been rumors that Ross was a regular at these wild parties. But now, court footage reportedly confirms what people have been whispering all along. Ross was right in the middle of it. The footage allegedly shows Ross attending one of Diddy's notorious gatherings, and it suggests that his involvement in Diddy's controversial lifestyle runs deeper than he's ever admitted. Ross has always had a close relationship with Diddy, with the two collaborating on multiple projects over the years. But seeing him at one of these parties, where illicit items and power plays were rampant, has people wondering just how much Ross was involved in the more unsavory aspects of Diddy's world. It's one thing to party with friends, but the footage reportedly shows Ross engaging in behavior that goes beyond the typical party scene. Fans are left questioning whether Ross knew about the darker side of Diddy's parties, and, if so, why he's kept quiet about it for so long. The footage paints a picture of a man who was more than just an attendee. Ross seems to have been fully immersed in the wild, chaotic energy of these events. And while Ross has always maintained a larger-than-life persona, this new information could damage the empire he's built around his brand of luxury and power. If he was complicit in or aware of some of the more disturbing things that went on at these parties, it's going to be hard for him to brush this off. Ross hasn't publicly addressed the footage yet, but the fact that it's out there puts him in a tricky position. Will he deny his involvement or come clean about what he saw and did at these infamous events? Fans are waiting for answers, but one thing is clear. This footage has added a whole new layer of controversy to Rick Ross's already complex relationship with Diddy. 14. Lil' Kim. Lil' Kim and Diddy's relationship is practically legendary in hip-hop circles, going all the way back to the early days of Bad Boy Records. Kim was a fierce, unapologetic force in the 90s, with Diddy right by her side, shaping the sound and image of that era. But now, decades later, her name is resurfacing in a very different way. This time in court footage connected to Diddy's infamous freak-off parties. According to reports, Lil' Kim has been seen in the footage attending several of these wild gatherings. These weren't just your average music industry parties. They were chaotic, boundary-pushing events where anything could happen. Illicit items and all kinds of questionable behavior were the norm. And while Lil' Kim has always been known for her edgy persona, seeing her involved in these notorious parties adds a whole new layer of controversy to her long-standing relationship with Diddy. For many fans, this revelation is both shocking and confusing. On the one hand, Lil' Kim has never been one to shy away from a good time or live a life that's anything but bold and out there. But on the other hand, the idea of her being present at parties where so much disturbing behavior allegedly took place raises questions. Was she aware of what was really happening behind the scenes, or was she just another guest trying to have a good time? Lil' Kim hasn't commented on the footage yet, and it's hard to say what she might reveal if she does. The footage doesn't necessarily show her participating in anything illegal or inappropriate, but just being there has tied her to a scandal that is growing larger by the day. For someone who has worked so hard to maintain her legacy as a trailblazer in the rap game, this could be a serious blow to her reputation. The connection between Lil' Kim and Diddy has always been tight, but with this new footage surfacing, it's clear that there's a lot more to their relationship than the public ever knew. Whether she was an active participant or just an observer, her presence at these freak-off parties has definitely complicated her image and her history with Diddy. Fans are left wondering if more footage will come out, shedding light on just how involved she was in the wildest side of Diddy's empire. 15. Faith Evans. While many artists around her were embroiled in drama, scandals, and controversy, Faith managed to stay above the fray, focusing on her music and her personal life. But the recent court footage showing her attending one of Diddy's notorious parties has shocked fans and cast a new light on her role in the Bad Boy universe. Faith's inclusion in the footage is particularly surprising because she has always seemed like one of the more stable figures in the volatile world of 90s hip-hop. She's had her personal struggles, sure. Her tumultuous marriage to the notorious B.I.G. was well documented, but for the most part, she's avoided the wild lifestyle that surrounded so many other bad boy artists. So, seeing her tied to Diddy's scandalous parties is raising some serious questions. The footage reportedly shows Faith attending one of Diddy's infamous freak-off gatherings, the kind of event that's now infamous for its mix of illicit items and all-around debauchery. These parties were not just industry networking events. They were wild, excessive, and pushed boundaries in ways that have led to serious legal consequences for Diddy. And now, with Faith's name tied to them, her image as the good girl of Bad Boy is being re-examined. What's unclear is how involved Faith really was in these parties. Was she just there as a guest, unaware of the more disturbing activities happening around her, or did she know more than she's ever let on? Faith has yet to speak out about the footage, but her silence is only fueling speculation. Fans who have long admired her for keeping her head down and focusing on her craft are now wondering if there's a side to Faith they never knew about. This revelation comes as a huge surprise to those who have followed Faith's career, and it complicates her legacy in a big way. For years, she was seen as a voice of reason in the often chaotic world of bad boy records. But now, with this footage coming to light, her connection to Diddy's darker side is impossible to ignore. Whether she was actively involved in the wildness or simply caught up in the scene, Faith Evans' name being tied to these parties has left a lot of people rethinking what they thought they knew about her. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.